Hey guys, so this year's April Fools had a Nintendo Direct, but it was no joke. We got to see both Fire Emblem If and Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem, or Illusory Revelations Sharp FE in Japan, whatever that means. Today, we'll break down the trailer in fine detail and share some speculation on just what kind of game this is. Believe it or not, the first thing of note is that the game is anticipated to be rated mature. This is rather typical of ATLUS games, but not so much Fire Emblem games. You'll also notice throughout that the game doesn't give a very M-rated vibe yet, so it's possible we've only seen a fraction of the game's content and atmosphere. Moving on, we see what appears to be the four main characters, one of which is dressed in something like a battle outfit, whereas the others are wearing modern, everyday clothes. For reference, we'll call the characters Green Girl, the heroine, the hero, and Red Hair, going from left to right. For a split second, we see an assassin-like character clad in black and gold. Some speculated he was Chrom, perhaps because the blade of his sword resembles Awakening's falchion, but there's no definitive evidence. Next we see what appears to be a kid in casual clothes. His striking resemblance to the rapier-wielding character at the beginning suggests that these two characters are the same, but this one has black hair and no facial markings. Could characters have multiple forms? The hero resembles Sigurd from the Fire Emblem series. It could be that powers or identities of Fire Emblem characters are being channeled. It's already been revealed that there is a parallel world with Fire Emblem characters. Could the real-world characters be taking on the persona of iconic Fire Emblem characters or classes, borrowing their powers? For instance, look at what we presume to be the hero here. He has blue hair like many protagonists, though the middle is closer to black like his real-world form. And he also wields a slick rapier with a spiral guard, the most common starting weapon of Fire Emblem characters. Well, minus the design. His colors and noble fighting presence are also reminiscent of the main characters of Fire Emblem games. The next four shots are actually all of the heroine, but in different clothing. We see her in a dancer-like outfit with glowing rings on her arms, as well as her fantasy-style outfit, which makes her resemble Sheeta, not only in hairstyle and color, but also in regards to her weapon and the Pegasus we see her on. Next we see Red Hair in a performance, followed by an appearance in the reoccurring stage area, not only riding a motorcycle in his normal clothes, but also wielding a spear in a fantasy outfit. The first sign that people can wear both normal and fantasy outfits in this stage area where battles take place. In the following moments, we can spot another Pegasus rider different from before, as well as the character speculated to be some incarnation of Chrom, in what could potentially be a dungeon. Immediately after, we see a red-cloaked person in a darkened projection of the city. She could be an antagonist that is affecting the real world through what looks like dark magic. On the other hand, a younger incarnation of Tiki from the Fire Emblem series stands on a colorful shrine-like area, as if to foil the darker atmosphere of the clip right before. In the interesting little scene after, we can not only see paint-splattered pictures, but also our first glimpse of Green Girl's in-game model. Now, we think she might be this person singing here, who we can find out from a poster with her face on it is named Kiria, but it's not as clear-cut as the other characters, so we can't say it's really her. The next screen of what looks like walking on the first floor of a dungeon actually gives a lot of insight. We can see three characters, each with HP and EP, the latter of which is probably akin to the general concept of mana, as well as icons that match up with class types. The hero is the rapier-wielding lord, the heroine a spear-wielding Pegasus, and Kiria mage, marked by her high EP. We can also see that HP probably carries over from battle to battle, since two of the characters only have partial HP in this scene. Hey, these guys checking out the Tiki poster on silhouettes. Wait, Tiki poster? With a mic? Is she an idol now? Man, dragons aren't what they used to be, am I right? First person waifu view, persona time, hey Tiki, Twintails, and demon summoning. Okay, we didn't have much to say about the last few clips, but in the next scene, we see two people duke it out, one of which is a white and red armored character. But what's really notable is that we see them doing what appears to be a special attack on enemies. Could this character be a party member, or is this just a cutscene? Right after, we see Kiria again, and this time she seems to be fighting. This actually leads us to some interesting conclusions. Notice the portrait behind her, and now it's actually showing the Twintail character we saw before. We think that these two characters are actually the same, but the form with Twintails is their fantasy form, and they're not the only characters with pictures that show their fantasy forms behind them. We can see the same for the hero, heroine, and Red Hair as well. Not to mention that the weapon Kiria uses is the same as the one Twintails is shown using later, so it can't just be a coincidence. By the way, if you are curious about the enemies in this game, you'll be interested in knowing that both Gangrel and Aversa make appearances, though they've also undergone some makeovers. Gangrel is actually using some kind of Death Saucer attack with blades that vaguely resemble the collar from his Awakening art, and Aversa here resembles her appearance in her default class, Dark Flyer. There are two other details we can take from our first look at the battle, and that's the presence of what looks to be a turn-based battle system where the order can be seen at the top and each turn is called around. The attacks themselves, shown at the bottom, also have icons to show what type they are. It looks like Gangrel's attack is a physical one, while Aversa's is some other type whose icon looks like reticle. We're not sure what it is yet. After a quick scene of a bow-wielding character, we can see what is actually the character from before that looks like Crom, though he's attacking the enemies here like a meteor from above. Again, this could be evidence that he's actually playable later on in the game, especially since the director, Shinjiro Takada, mentioned there were other playable characters hidden in the trailer. Back to the battle system though, we see a chain of attacks happen from 4 different characters, but we can clearly see only 3 are in the party. And one of those characters is a character we've never seen before, who is actually the bow girl. Not only is her icon reminiscent of a sniper, but as it appears only 3 characters can be in a battle at once, she must be the bow girl by process of elimination. What's interesting is that in this chain of attacks, starting with El Thunder from the hero, 2 characters that aren't actively in the battle, Kiria and Redhair, participate in the attack, but the actual initiator appears to be the bow girl, whose real-world appearance is probably that of the blonde girl we see in her icon. We also see more elements that make up the game's overall theme of music and performances, as the attacker is called the artist, and the attack combo seems to be called the session, as well as a hint of SMT's weakness system, where the player is possibly granted extra turns to attack for exploiting enemies' weaknesses. Lastly, we see what looks like thunder, wind, and ice type attacks, but also a lance icon that suggests that physical attacks are actually split into different types. Could we see an axe type physical attack and the return of the weapon triangle, but in more of a Shin Megami Tensei fashion? Okay guys, we're almost done. The next scene is just a quick view of what appears to be a ruined city with parts of it actually floating in the sky. Could this be a hint of a darker undertone to the game? We really can't say at this point, especially considering the last animated scene with the heroine and Versa returns back to the colorful scenery we've seen throughout most of the game. It seems like Shibuya might change during nighttime, perhaps for the worse. The circles on the ground we see in the background are probably portals of some sort, because we saw a character from before summon some kind of demon through it. It's very possible that this is when the real world is most in danger, and that the protagonists are trying to stop elements of the parallel fantasy world from leaking over into the real world. But we could sit here theorizing all day, so let's wrap this up. The trailer leaves us with the transformation of a Pegasus into a motorized Pegasus of sorts. This could be an element of the game or symbolic of a more modern take on Fire Emblem's medieval fantasy. Regardless, the heroine confronts the enemy and delivers one final line that roughly translates to, "I definitely won't let you escape." This is actually the first time we hear anyone speak in the entire trailer, unless you count Kiria singing the background music, Reincarnation. Granted, Kiria's voice actor could be different from the actual singer of Reincarnation, so we can't say for sure that we've heard Kiria's voice. It could go either way. Speaking of the song, the lyrics actually say, "I want to destroy," and also have a darker undertone to them. We'll upload another video with the song and lyrics so you can see what we mean. The biggest takeaway is actually the song title. We've mentioned before that these characters seem to take on various traits of Fire Emblem characters, or in other words, the Fire Emblem characters are being reincarnated either through the protagonist or the demons of this game. Though this is just a theory, it seems like each person has a hidden side to them that they want to let free, and that the fantasy world will help them do just that, giving them strength through the personas that they borrow. For instance, the heroine appears to be a shy girl in her school life, but enjoys listening to music. Perhaps she wants to be a singer or idol, but feels pressured by society to keep that to herself. Likewise, Redhair seems to enjoy doing performances of his own, but perhaps it's not something he feels very confident in, so he also keeps it to himself. There's really so much that can be going on here, and no way to know for sure, but these sorts of inner conflicts would match up with the Persona-esque vibes we've been getting throughout the trailer. Well everyone, that's that. We hope you liked our breakdown of the Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem trailer. There is still a lot we don't know or are unsure about this game, and I'm curious to see how it all plays out. Though it is certainly an ATLUS game inspired by both SMT and its sub-series Persona, there are certainly many Fire Emblem references in here for fans to pick out, so I can see how this crossover could appeal to certain parts of both fanbases in their own way. Also, I want to give a big thanks to Cero for working with me like 8 hours on this over the past few days. We wanted to get it out sooner, but this trailer was just packed full of hidden details. Until next time.